Hello, I'm Colin Thompson. Welcome to the next episode in our COVID Coaches series. In this series, myself and other life coaches will be giving tips and insights on how you and your family can make it through the coronavirus outbreak hopefully without getting infected, but more importantly, with a positive mindset. The experience and tips that we share are coming from our real life experiences here in China, having, and I say this word, survived, but having made it through the initial coronavirus outbreak here in China. We have great information to share with you. In today's episode, we have Kanisha Berry, who is a life coach out of Beijing, China. She is currently located in the United States, where she and her family have returned due to the coronavirus outbreak. Now, she has a great lesson to share with us. She'll be talking to us about what she did when she noticed that the mindset of her children and her husband were starting to deteriorate and go south. What activities she put in place to make sure that they remain in a positive mindset. She'll also share insight on how to better communicate with your elder parents who don't want to change their lifestyle due to the coronavirus. As we all know, most of the older citizens have much more to risk if they get infected. So once again, we want you guys to really be able to take some lessons learned and some good tips from our insight. Welcome to our next video in our COVID coaches lineup. I'm very happy to have you here today. I know you have a great message, and not only a message, but some great tips and inspiration to everybody who's going through the COVID outbreak back in the US, back in Europe, back in South America, actually globally. We're still going through a lot of things here in Shanghai, especially a new way foreigners are being treated here. But we'll get into that into a different episode. But I want to introduce you, Kanisha Berry. You are a relationship life coach, and this is relationships with a partner and your children, which is going to be a focus on today's topic. Also, you're the founder of Very Thoughtful Life. So before we go into today's topic, please give yourself a brief introduction.
Okay. So as you said, my name is Kanisha Berry. I am a relationship life coach. Typically what I do is I tell people I help them with the relationship they're having with themselves so they can have a better relationship with other people. But because I'm so relationship focused, of course, particularly in this time, I have just been watching like my family and making sure that we're having healthy relationships with each other and with ourselves individually. Because I'm fully emotional awareness is kind of what I would say is my specialty. So I'm kind of always looking to see where I am, gauging where I am emotionally, so that then I can kind of gauge where the family is, and then making sure that we all have the same language that we can communicate with each other what's going on.
Right. And I think that's very important, because what we've seen and what we've learned coming from China is that one of the greatest places you feel the impacts of the outbreak is at home. It's not just the people who are sick. Now, granted, the people who are sick are going through something we can't imagine, of course, and their loved ones. But there is a big toll or strain put on relationships inside the house, and also with your families and with your extended friends as well. So today, I'd like you to start off by sharing your story, because it's really very interesting. When the coronavirus outbreak happened, when the outbreak happened back in end of January, a lot of us, I was rushing to get back to Shanghai to be at home, so I could be sort of hunkered in for the duration. You were in Beijing with your family, with most of your family, and you guys were looking to get out of Beijing before they closed the border, before they stopped the flights. And now you made it out, you're back home, and now you have a much bigger outbreak impact. Well, the outbreak in the U.S. is by far more vast and wide than it was here in China. So please share us with your story, the thought process for leaving Beijing and getting back to North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
North Carolina, and how you guys are doing now.
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you, Colin, like we never left China because we didn't feel safe. Right. I'll be honest with you. Like I felt I might have had an unhealthy belief of my safety there. I never thought I would get the virus, because I thought while we were there, China was doing such a great job with, the isolation, having to have a mask on, having your fever checked everywhere. So I felt there was a level of safety feeling there. What I was worried about was the isolation, because we was just coming off a holiday, Chinese New Year. My family and I didn't travel. Most of our friends was away, so we had already kind of been spending time just by ourselves. And so when they start talking about this virus and travel, possibly not being able to leave, I thought, well, let's go home because I'd rather do this at home. And my daughter, so it's my husband and I, and we have 2 children, but my daughter lives back here in North Carolina because she had gotten, she wasn't happy in China. So I was of the mindset that whatever this is, I needed us all to be together. And so that was really why I insisted that we like, let's leave Beijing, let's come home. And of course, I guess in a way we weren't thinking that it would hit America like this.
Right.
And so then we're here, and where everyone else is just kind of starting this process of the coronavirus and being quarantined. We've been doing this since February.
Right.
In the sense of like our normal has been completely shifted, and particularly for my son, who's a senior in high school, his whole normal had been shifted. And so when we first arrived back to America, North Carolina, my daughter was still going to school every day, where my son was having to be home. So
Right.
You get to see this major dynamic of her life is normal and going on like everything else. And then the 3 of us are sitting around like, okay, what do we do? But this was even before the virus, I think, even hit here where it was a thing. So we was moving about, having life, but my son wasn't having the life he was used to. And my husband certainly wasn't. He's a teacher. So that was a change. Me being a life coach, the wonderful thing is I was able to continue to coach with my clients. But, it's just interesting seeing the dynamic of what was now happening with our family.
And when you went back, you guys did not have to do any sort of 14-day self-quarantine or anything like that.
You know what? They encourage us. They was like, if you feel feverish, that kind of thing. Looking back on it, and I don't mean to say this as a slight to America, I felt like they wasn't hard enough on us.
Yeah.
Coming back into this country, right? So we didn't even really self-quarantine because we knew that we believed we hadn't been anywhere near the virus in the time they start talking about it, because it was Wuhan, we was in Beijing, the whole thing, right? And so, when we got back, we didn't have any fevers. They said, here's a document. Your fever's fine now. Be careful. And if you feel
it was the whole self-declaration thing. I know there were folks who came back to Shanghai and to China from other places, and it was sort of the same thing. Self-declaration. At that time, you could sort of self-monitor, and as you know here, where you live, your residential compounds, the security guards were given, I don't know what kind of powers they were given, but they have no guns, no flashlights, right. But they still had a lot of power to really control who's going in and going out. But at that time, they were still being kind of loose on people who were returning. And I know probably mid-February, they really started clamping down, and you had to do it was recommended that you stay for 14 days. And in China, when it's recommended you stay for 14 days, you stay for 14 days. They're watching you. Your neighbors are watching you. Everybody's watching to make sure you stay in for 14 days. Okay, not 13 and a half, 14 days.
Right.
So you guys have been back there for about 6-7 weeks. And I know that as we talked before, you mentioned that you watched your family members, your husband and your child. You saw their personalities start to decline, start to change. What happened? Of course, it was due to, I assume it was due to the impact of the outbreak. What did you see? What helped you identify the fact that something is wrong here and something needs to be addressed? And then, of course, how did you guys address it, and how are they doing today?
Yeah. So it really started, my biggest concern when we first arrived was my son.
Okay.
Because, being 17, he had all these plans. Senior year in high school, he was planning a trip with his friends. His birthday was March 25th, so he was going to do this gathering for his 18th birthday. And so part of the concern was just, I feel bad because everything that he planned wasn't going to go quite the way it was. When we first arrived, there wasn't any outbreak or anything. Mm-hmm. So we was moving around like everything was fine. My husband was in a good place because he had started interviewing. We knew that this was our last year in China anyway. So we was processing to move back to America. So he'd been job interviewing, that whole thing. So when we first arrived, it was good. I was just kind of watching my son, making sure you're okay, you're good. you lonely? Are you bored? What's happening here? But more recently, with the virus really breaking out here, my daughter stopped going to school. So now America started saying, okay, they're going to be out of school for 2 weeks. And I knew when the moment I heard that, I said, they're soft. Like they're easing America into this. They are afraid to tell Americans that your kids are going back to school.
Yeah.
So we'll tell y'all 2 weeks so that, you know.
You would clean out your locker now.
Right. You have a little time to process it before you just lose your mind altogether. And so when they did that, that's when I thought, okay, this is getting serious. But then when they start every day watching the numbers, right? Because my son and my husband, they are news junkies. They're information junkies. I don't watch it, Colin. I'm intentional about not watching it. I'll read a headline, I ask what's going on, but I don't feed myself that stuff because I know what it does to us. I'm all about emotion. I'm all about emotional awareness. I'm fully aware of what that information does to the body, does to the mind, makes you can't sleep. So every day, here's my son giving me a report. Mama, this many people died today. This many people died. And so right. And so that's when I start saying, hey, Bryce, let's do this together. Let's hang out together. He's like, I'm fine. I'm like, you're not fine because you're not talking. My son's very talkative. And he'd start going quiet. So that was my first sign that this isn't good. And then I was encouraging him to like reach out to his friends, but particularly on his birthday, I could see the sadness coming. And we did what we could, like we threw him a party, that kind of thing. People really, my family was great. Everybody went out their way, make phone calls, sent money. Give a teenager money, it changes everything, right? But just noticing that emotionally, his lows, but being able to finally get him to open up and talk about it. And so that's what I would encourage parents to do. Really get people to talk about, what are you feeling? What are you thinking? What's happening now? Because with teenagers particularly, when young people, we tend to think, they never think about death.
Right.
They hear about it, they know about it, but they don't really process it, right? They don't sit in it. This is causing teenagers to sit in it, to sit in those feelings of, and this is what he's saying, he said, I realized that I can go to sleep and not wake up.
Wow.
Yeah. And so but if I wasn't pushing and constantly saying, hey, let's get together, let's walk, let's talk, he wouldn't have opened up to me. He would have just kept stuffing because I'm aware that's his mechanism. He stuffs, he keeps quiet. So I was going to talk about like how we have these emotional needs. We got 6 basic emotional needs. My high emotional need is growth, contribution, and significance. Bryson's high emotional need is certainty.
Certainty.
So this is creating a lot of uncertainty for him.
Okay, so with your certainty, just being able to sort of visualize what being able to plan. You know,
yes, plan. I know what's going to happen next. I need to know have an idea. Like he's been like that since he was a little boy. He would say, I said, come on, Bryce, let's go. He's like, where are we going? Who's going to be there? How long are we going to be there? He needed to know that because his deep need for certainty, if he didn't have a vision in front of him of what it looked like, he needed you to paint it as best you could. And that's a need for certainty. And so with this time, he's so uncertain, he was shutting it, he was closing in. Where my need for growth, see, I'm working on my master's, so I'm busy. Right. I don't have time to really think about that stuff. My husband's need is like connection. And so his job in his mind, he's taking care of us. So he's not even thinking about, or, you know, he knows how to move out of his own needs because as long as he's connected to us, I can touch him, I can feel him, I can go talk to him, I can play with them, I can make them laugh. I'm connecting to them, so I'm okay.
Right.
That's how his emotional need was speaking to him.
So in these cases, maybe more towards Bryce, but perhaps also with your husband, they didn't come out, they didn't reach out to you and say, hey mom, hey honey, I need to talk about this. You recognize a shift in their personality. So would you recommend once parents or spouses or partners see that shift, they immediately take action, or should they lay in the cut, watch for a while? What's the best line of action there?
Well, being clear that you know, like your child, like how, you know, if you're familiar with love languages, you know their love language, or what is the thing that you can do to get them to open up, right? So I knew just sitting outside Bryson and going, hey, let's talk. He doesn't want to talk, but we can pull out the Monopoly game, right? Okay. So that at least gets him engaged. So it pulls him out of a little bit of his slump, and he's engaged because Monopoly is his favorite game. So at least at that point, now all of his need to, be engaged with us, because he has his two high needs are certainty and connection. So now at least he's connecting. And so then after that, after playing the game, again, go back to the watching mode. I'm watching, see what you do, where you're going. And then for me, it's always just inviting. So one of the things he did, which I thought was great, he and a friend, she's in Italy. They once a week, they do a cooking contest together.
Okay.
So what does that do? That gives him something to look forward to. That gives him some form of excitement. That guess what? He gets to control. So he gets to have the certainty that I know come every Wednesday, I think they do it every Wednesday, I get online with Luna and we're going to have this cooking contest. And so you start seeing. And so for me last night, after watching day after day of him not really talking, he was present with me. He would give me hugs, but he wasn't talking.
Right.
So I just kept going, and I'll go in their room. Hey guys, let's pray together. Hey guys, let's, how's everybody doing? And notice, but what I said last night that broke the ice, strangely enough, is I was like, I really miss you guys.
And they've been there the whole time.
That was the funniest thing.
Right. They've been there the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, Mom, are you crazy? But it made him laugh. And in his laughter, I said, when I say I miss you, you haven't talked to me in a while. And I said, what's been going on in your mind? Like, what have you been thinking about? And when I said that, Colin, it all just came up.
So I think you found a way to address it without pushing, without being overly pushing. And I want to put this in context. As you mentioned, he's a senior. So he missed his senior prom. He missed his senior pictures. He missed a lot of things that we look forward to in our last year. So and all due to the impact of the coronavirus. So I can imagine that he was feeling a certain way. Really quick, is he starting to? You mentioned last night. You told me I miss you guys who I see every day. Are they responding? Are they responding? And is it just you who's addressing that, or are you and your husband also addressing it together, sort of coming at him from both sides?
So we're definitely addressing it together. So I don't know if it's cool, but when you're in my family, they have to learn what I know.
Okay.
So as a coach, every time I learn a new technique, when I first started, everything new I would learn, I would test it on them without telling them. And then when it would work, I would explain to them, hey, what I just did was this technique. So they begin to, they are so aware, both my teenagers. My daughter, her awareness, she was able to admit, she came to us. We didn't have to come to her. She says, Mom, what do I do? I'm feeling like I don't care anymore. She's like, I'm hearing so much. I'm concerned because I don't feel.
What does she mean by that?
So I guess the whole notion that, Colin, if you hear 3,000 people die, you would think that there's some emotion attached to that. But for her, she had disassociated so much so that now she's concerned, that she's aware that she's concerned that I don't even feel anything. I don't feel sympathy. I don't feel sad. I don't feel nothing.
Just a little numb.
What's happening with me? Yeah. And so then it's like, okay, well, let's talk about that, because maybe what do you do? Are you blocking? Are you denying? Where are you going? And then, or are you missing school? Because she's been out for a while. What's going on with you? Are you afraid that if you do care, if you do love, if you do express, that what are you thinking? Is the worst going to happen?
Right.
Now, is this your way of guarding and protecting?
Yeah, I think it's very important, because just from your stories and your recapping, I can tell that you have a very open environment in your house where people can share their feelings, and it seems like fear and anxiety is not dominating what's taking place inside your house. I think it's very hard not very hard, but I hope people can definitely understand how to develop that environment, because it's very important for that neutral environment to be there. I do want to go into another side of your story, because we talked about your child and your husband, your children and your husband, excuse me. But you also have your mother, and you're telling me how your mother is, I'm going to say she is in her millennial thought process right now, meaning she's still going out, living her life. As you mentioned, she's still going out to Walmart. She's still being somewhat active.
Too active.
And I want you to share what she's doing. Is this more a way of her coping with what's going on? Meaning, look, I'm old enough I can live my life. I'm not scared of no damn COVID. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know COVID, right? Um,
Yeah.
is it a coping method, or is it more that she's not taking it as serious? What are your thoughts?
I really think my mom isn't taking it as serious. I think because so we're from a small town in North Carolina, Hosky, North Carolina. I think the kids looked it up. I think it's 5,000 people,
Oh,
right?
oh, wow.
Right, very small. This is where I grew up. My mother has lived here all her life. She has a very high need for certainty as well. Um, and my mother is a busybody. My mother is 71. I think we confirmed today that she's 71 because I thought she was 72. She's like, I'm not 72. She's 71. She has more energy than most 40-year-olds. I've never seen anything like it. She goes, I mean, she's constantly on the go. And that was her life normally. And so I think my mom doesn't want to surrender to the notion that her life has to be she sit in the house.
Mm,
And so literally since this has started, my mother goes, she's always gone to Walmart every day.
right.
She's always thought to herself, she's like, it's just me and my husband. I don't need to buy groceries, like buy up groceries. So she goes to the grocery store every day. But I also knew for my mother that was an opportunity to get out the house, and because it's a small town. So you go to Walmart. It's not just I'm going to pick up something. You're running into people.
People.
You're seeing people
Mm,
like this is Walmart is like for us being, living in the city, coming home, we laugh and we joke because like Walmart is the place to go
right. The
in
thing,
Little Hosky.
right.
So it's that for her too, but she hasn't stopped.
It played a different role. Has that created any, because you coming from Beijing and knowing the impact, has that created any tension? And if not, how would you avoid that? And if so, how are you sort of managing that tension?
Well, so I'll voice to her my concern, Mom. I really wish you would slow down. She would voice to me that I'm grown. You can't tell me what to do.
Right. We're just kind of, but what can we do, right? Yeah.
Okay. And because of all, honestly, Cullen, the work that I've done, understanding you can't change people, um, she's going to have to want for herself not to go. Then I just choose not to engage in a place
Right.
of where I feel like I have to force my will on her.
Right.
So my goal is to like pray that she's safe because the truth of the matter is she's actually putting us in danger too.
Right.
I don't think she thinks of it that way. Um, and we just because we're in her house. I don't have a home in America. So what can I do?
True. True. Yeah. And
So
again,
I
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, we just want to so I do what I can to keep it a peaceful environment. I'll mention to her, Mom, I really want you to consider that, like you can get us sick. And she's like, so then she gets mad, like, you think I got it? No, I'm not.
Yeah, it's a
Like,
challenge. I think talking to your children about this is one thing because you do have some influence.
yeah.
Talking to your parents is an entirely different thing. Hopefully, she's still following some sort of disinfection process when she comes back into the house, washing her hands and things like that. But I'll let you guys have that little battle. Hopefully, hopefully things won't take a turn from where you guys are. But in case they do, hopefully she will be protected because she is a little bit older and the risk is a little higher. So before we close out,
Sure.
because you have much more that you can share, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook at verythoughtfullife.com. My website, I said Facebook, Very Thoughtful Life, but my website is verythoughtfullife.com. So that's Barry, as in my last name, verythoughtfullife.com. I'm on YouTube. So honestly, if they go to YouTube, there's a deeper teaching about those 6 emotional needs there.
Okay.
But yeah, so Facebook, my website, and then YouTube is basically where I hang out. I have a little bit on Instagram, but
Okay, and we'll have your information up so folks should see that. I want to say, I think from what you shared with us today, it's clear that being able to have that atmosphere at home, the environment where people can openly share. One of the things that we're trying to be very consistent message is there's going to be a lot of bad news coming. There's also going to be some powerful positive things that come as well. But you have to have that environment where people feel open to sharing, because the more people hold things in, the more tension is going to come into the household, and people are going to start feeling stifled. So thank you for sharing the example of where you guys have been able to understand each other to the point where if you see your loved ones going a certain way, you can address it instantly and bring it out to the forefront in a very calm manner. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Kanisha, thank you very much for your time. And we'll be seeing you again in another video very, very
All
soon.
right.